1, 2, 3. Click.
Okay, are we all present? Well, just give a moment in case Councillor Lynch is having a bit of technology issues. Right, we're a minute past, so Nick, I do think we ought to make a start. I think you're right. So, oh, I don't know what that noise was. That's probably
Councillor Hunt.
telling me to attend this meeting. Right. Good evening and welcome to the Planning Subcommittee of Hertford Town Council. It's Monday the 30th of November, and obviously we're holding this meeting remotely via Zoom. So item 1 on the agenda, Nick, just to confirm that this meeting is being recorded live on YouTube.
Yes.
And is it right that these can actually be subsequently viewed after the meeting?
Can be.
Yeah.
Correct.
We'll move on to item 2. Any apologies for absence, Nick?
Chairman, no, I've had no apologies for absence.
Okay. So item 3 is declarations of interest. Are there any? I was expecting Councillor Ruffles.
Well, it may be one that you may want to record, because we've an application in the cul-de-sac Bluebell Close, haven't we?
We have
2366 is,
indeed.
which is the address of Her Worship our Mayor,
Oh,
and it's a very
Ex-mayor.
tight, well, not as tight as 1 or 2 that we've been to on that estate, but it's quite a tight area really, and whether we ought to just acknowledge the fact that we know.
we know a resident.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether she announces her address to the public though. That's the thing.
Well, it's out there now.
It's on record.
Or what we could say then is that a serving councillor, I suppose we could say, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Lives at that address, lives on that
Yeah.
road. Yeah. Perhaps that's what we could minute, Nick.
Thanks.
Thank you. So then we're on to item 4, which is just to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of November. Anyone got any observations regarding those minutes? Would someone like to propose them as accurate record? Thank you, Councillor Newton. Anyone second it? Oh, Councillor Lynch, I think, seconded. Thank you. We'll just have a show of hands that they're accurate record. And I think that's unanimous, apart from Councillor Hunt, who wasn't there, so can't really confirm.
Oh, he
Good
can
evening, Councillor Hunt.
technically. He can vote though.
Oh, he can vote. Oh, well done.
Yeah, he can propose them if he's not there as well.
Well, you have it's unanimous anyway. Thank you, Councillor Hunt. All right, item 5 on the agenda is any matters arising, which is on paper A, isn't it? So we had a number of things we were going to discuss whether they should go on to paper A. Is this the time to do that, Nick? Oh, it's all gone quiet.
Chairman, yes, it is. Yeah, correct.
Okay, so just looking at the minutes we've just approved, the items we were going to suggest be added, or certainly we asked for an update. I don't know whether there's any feedback, first of all, on the burger box. Nick?
I believe, Chairman, I have had an update on the burger box. Just hold on a second. Yeah, so in terms of the burger box, the update that I've had is basically in the fact that they've looked at the site history, the East Herts Planning Department have. They visited the site to look at the development and its harm on the street scene. And it has now been decided that the council will not pursue any formal action in this instance. Okay. So this is information I've had since the agenda was sent out. So that's why it hasn't been updated here. So yeah, so there's no formal action being pursued. So looking at the nature of the flue, the way the roof slopes, So yeah, so it's apparently it's only visible when exiting the roundabout south of the property. So looking at it in mind, it's the extent of harm caused. It's not deemed significant enough to have any further formal action. Okay, so that's where we are with that
Takes
one.
us a year to get to this.
Yes, yeah. I don't argue with the decision, Chairman, but that's the key point, isn't it? We could have had a quicker answer, I think.
Actually,
Could all have been dealt with so much quicker,
Yeah.
indeed. But okay,
one's
so I
now
believe that
complete.
means it can come off paper A then. We can record that action as being closed. Wow. Any
Chairman.
update on the rare breed farm? I know we were informing East Herts District Council about the numerous breaches.
Chairman, I've had no update as such as yet. I don't know if any other members have done.
No, not aware of any. Good evening, Councillor Pinkham.
Sorry, I was late.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that Nick spotted you joining us. Okay, so the three items that were to consider adding, whether action needed to be taken. A shed in the front garden in 2 Birdie Way. I did see this shed. Anyone got any views in terms of whether it needs planning permission or not?
I guess personally it doesn't, Chairman, and I personally wouldn't be encouraging us to pursue it, but it did come as a question from your predecessor in the chair of this meeting, and that's why I thought it might be, certainly the local district ward member has looked at it. I'm not sure what her view was, but personally I can see it's something that doesn't add a beneficial addition, as it were, visually, but it's a bit like the burger box thing. It's not a plus point, but it's not a very big negative, is it? I would have thought.
My view. There are other sheds in the area, and they're not as prominent as that one, but I personally don't feel it warrants our attention. I don't know whether anyone else has a view.
Well, it's dragged on for such a long time. It doesn't seem to be getting anywhere, and everything is hush hush up the top chain. So it's been investigated in another way, seemingly, but we don't seem to know why, or how.
Right. I think. Are we happy to leave it off our action list and not pursue it?
I'm happy.
Yeah. Okay. And the second item was, well, an internally illuminated sign on the side of Pound Stretcher. It's only just about there because it's hanging off at the moment. I don't know if anyone noticed whether lorries knocked it or something driving down Maidenhead Street, but it clearly needs removing. Frankly, it needs repairing and replacing, or not repairing, replacing, I would say. So personally, bearing in mind that we do have we have adopted the district council's guidance on signage for retail signage, I think this is one that needs attention. As I say, it's actually hanging off the wall at the moment.
It has, Chairman, sorry, it has been hanging off the wall for well over 12 months. And the enforcement people came to an agreement and closed the case on the internally illuminated element of it. And I received a letter to say, book closed after about 12 months. And it was turned off for a fortnight and then back on again. Still in its bashed up condition. But I've reported it as an individual, and as I have the next item on the list, I don't know whether this committee just wants to bear it in mind and take no action at the moment and wait to see, or whether we also want to write. There is another internally illuminated sign immediately opposite the Pound Stretcher, a new one, which members might like to look at in the next.
Well,
I
it
don't know
sets
to what extent
precedent.
we want to fuss about these as a committee, or whether it's for individual members to pursue.
I just think it sets a dangerous precedent. You know, I mean, if Pound Stretch are allowed to have theirs, then someone else is going to put one up, and before you know it, you're going to have internally illuminated. I don't know quite what they call these ones. Like they're like bus stop signs, aren't they?
Is there not a rule of law within that they have to seek authority or permission from the council? Is there no such thing exists?
Well, they ought to, absolutely. But clearly, Pound Stretcher didn't. I'm sorry, Councillor Lynch.
I said maybe a letter should be sent to them, just reminding them.
I don't know who enforces these things, Nick. Is it actually the district council rather than us as a town council?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly it ought to be repaired, the Pound Stretcher one.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Nick, yeah. So,
So yeah, sorry, Chairman. Yeah. So the town council could write a nicely worded letter to sort of bring it to their attention if we wish to, like we did with the pharmacy. And
Yeah.
you know that in terms of the state of the outside, or we could pass it over to district council to sue for a formal enforcement action.
I think we ought to approach them directly in the first instance. I don't know, you know, and maybe as happened with the pharmacy, you know, we'll get a good outcome, and then escalate it to the district council if we don't get a satisfactory outcome. So I would propose that we write pointing out that the sign is in need of repair. If they've been allowed to have it, I think it's difficult to ask them not to use it. I think what we could say is it needs to be repaired or removed. Obviously, we'd rather it were removed, but.
Well, Chairman, I don't quite agree, because I think the offending element is the internal illumination of it, not the sign itself, although the sign itself in its present condition is not attractive. I think if we're going to write, we ought to refer to the internally illuminated element, which coincides with our policies, because we're not against signs, we're against internal illumination.
Yeah, so perhaps a politely worded letter, Nick, saying that you know, the town council note that this sign is damaged, and we would like to see it replaced with an externally illuminated sign in line with our.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman, could I just volunteer a little
Yeah.
something? You're awfully polite, so when you keep saying politely worded letter, I would like them to repair it, not offer anything to them, other than put it in good order, because we're still not clear on their position regarding East Hants Council. Am I correct on that, Councillor Ruffles?
Well, technically, yes, because I had a letter a month ago as a reporting person to say the file was closed because the light had been turned off.
Yeah, but now it's on.
And now it's on.
So it must be turned off. Yeah.
Yes,
But that's
absolutely.
And repaired.
Yeah, perhaps, Nick, then the letter ought to say that the sign needs to be repaired and left switched off.
Yes.
Or replaced with an externally illuminated one, you know, as per district council guidelines. I don't know whether we could enclose those or just refer to a link.
I'm sure we can, Chairman.
Okay.
I hadn't noticed the one across the road. Whose sign is that then?
I think, Chairman, it's for whatever establishment is above Costa Coffee.
All right.
Deal.
Is that the Indian restaurant? No, it's not.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
It will be if it's there.
Then we ought to do something about that, should we not? Perhaps the first thing we should do is to write to the district council about it.
Well, could I suggest that we check it?
Yes.
Because I spotted it now 3 weeks ago. It may already have been turned off, as it were. I haven't looked.
So perhaps we could put it on our minutes to consider adding it to the action list at the next meeting.
Yeah.
was there today. I could have easily seen, but I hadn't noticed it, I must admit.
No.
Possible that they received a letter and turned it off immediately. I just haven't done the last minute check.
Legwork. Yeah. So perhaps we could just put it on our minutes to be considered to add to our action list. So the final action regarding
Chairman, could you just
on the corner of Wareham's Lane. So everyone had the opportunity to see those. Do we feel it needs enforcement?
I've got a certain amount of news. I wrote about that separately, and the reply I referred to what we're looking at here, which is the towering pile of skips. But the response that came, which was a fairly standard one from East Herts, didn't refer to what's visible over the wall, which is what I was asking about, but the whole site, I think.
Right.
They are looking at the use of the whole land. And it was an open book this time, not a closed one, and they were on to something, but they didn't precisely say what it was they were looking at, but I got the impression it wasn't the skips being
It's
hired.
under investigation, we could say.
So, yeah, perhaps we could just leave it on our list and look at it and decide if we want to, at a future date, whether we want to take some action.
Yeah, so Nick, perhaps you could put it on a paper A that East Herts District Council confirmed that they are investigating the use of that land. We can perhaps come back to it. So we're now on to item. Bear with item 6. Any questions and/or statements from members of the public?
None.
Was did we not John O'Gaunt's statue?
Oh, I don't know. Nick, do we have any updates regarding the statue?
Chairman, no further updates on that one.
One thing I do know, and I've heard because I've asked around, it wasn't. People do know it wasn't a solid statue. It was just simply made of plastic, in reinforced plastic. So it wasn't anything of great value, and they were given permission, as I understand it, to remove it from up by County Hall and move it down to Albert Worley's. Now, where it went between that is a good question, but it was not of value, of great value, or considered to be of great value. You might think opposite of that, Peter. I don't know. That's just what I heard, and when I asked, it seemed to be dismissed as well. It wasn't a great sort of thing.
So, in the light of that, how do we feel about? Do we want to leave it on our action list?
Peter is looking to talk.
Chairman, I didn't raise this one, I think, initially, but what information I did supply was that the curator of the museum was particularly interested in acquiring it, should it be otherwise going to scrap.
Right.
That surprised me at the time when she mentioned that, but I think she had a sort of personal, emotional thing about it.
Okay.
But she thought it, had a kind of place.
Yeah.
But I don't think it. I think Councillor Lynch is exactly right. It not from a purely historic point of view of being an object in itself, which was of value, but just that it had been part of our street scene, and she was keen to collect it if it were otherwise going to scrap. But I'm not quite sure now how it got onto our
Action list. Only that I think, as a town council, and as you say, as part of the historic street scene, the museum expressing that interest, we were trying to find out from the district council what's happened to it. But I fear it's falling on deaf ears, really.
Do we need to retain it on paper A?
I think perhaps we should. I think perhaps we could remove it from the list now. I think we've given it a bit of a run. And as you say, it's not of great value. So, Are we happy with that?
Yep.
In which case we can move on to item 7, which is paper B. So we're looking at the first application, which is 124 Ware Road. And when I loaded this, Nick, I noticed it said it'd been withdrawn. So I don't know whether we need to consider it or not.
Okay, I didn't notice actually when I uploaded the documents last, and I've got them uploaded. So if that's the latest detail, it's been withdrawn, we wouldn't need to consider it. But if that's what it says on the website,
Indeed, on the sort of home, on the landing page when you look at it.
just get that.
Do you want to check that or?
If committee doesn't mind me just checking it now, I can do.
Yeah. I mean, whilst you're doing that, we could move on to consider Foxholes Farm, the second application.
Perfectly ugly modern
Yeah,
barn.
Candy,
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say it's a perfect.
Nick, are you there already?
Being
yes,
replaced by a perfectly normal house.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm here actually. Yep.
Sorry, Councillor.
I have just sorry.
All right, no problem.
Sorry. Yep. Looking at the website, it does appear it's has been, the status does say withdrawn, application withdrawn by applicant.
Yeah. So we can move on to Foxholes Farm, but this is in the green belt.
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would have thought we'd oppose this because it's a new house in the green belt.
Well, indeed, it's an inappropriate development in the green belt for me. I don't know. Other people got any views?
Definitely, 100%. It's the Trojan horse, really.
Yeah.
Can I see some information on it, please? Nick?
So basically, it's one half of the barn. If you
Just
know
trying to find some information.
where the farm shop is, it's to the left of the farm shop. There's a barn that runs away from the shop, if you like, and then they want to convert half of that into a dwelling.
So is that the photograph of it now?
That's the barn.
Yes.
Yes,
And they want to convert the barn into residential?
they do.
I'm sure are there rules that allow them to do that?
I don't think there are rules that allow them to do that. I think, in
What
my
about
view, I think
permitted
it's just,
development?
they're having a punt to see if they can get it through.
There are certain rules that allow agricultural buildings to be have a change of use. Is it already in situ for a number of years, is it?
I would say the barn must have been there for a number of years, yeah.
Well, it's already established, isn't it? Will it look different to that? I mean, Nick, have you got a picture of what it will end up looking like?
No, we don't.
No, we don't. No.
We've got a floor plan. I mean, it's a very sort of scabby sort of application.
floor plan.
Anyway. It's not a serious application, is it? At this stage,
It is difficult without a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've got.
There's a
We've got a handwritten written application, basically. There's not even a bedroom there, is there?
Yeah,
The
there
next-
is. I thought I saw a bedroom somewhere.
Is that upstairs? Is it?
second floor, yeah.
Yes, they put stairs in, haven't they? Yeah, the bedrooms.
Councillor Ruffles has got his hand up.
4 bedrooms by the looks of it. My view is that this is inappropriate development in the green belt.
Fully support that view.
I'm not going to say anything. I just like more information.
Chairman, I think we've got to be a bit. I certainly agree absolutely that this shouldn't be permitted as a residential development, but I'm not quite sure when we link the green belt bit to it, because the green belt is, we must put green belt in there somewhere, but it's not against houses, it's against openness, the green belt, the test of the consideration. And this probably doesn't affect the openness, does it?
Well, because the
No,
barn
it's a-
exists already.
Yeah.
Brownfield site.
So I think our wording needs to be careful a bit, and add almost the fact that another residence in this campus is almost incidental, but it is
Actually,
the
Mr.
real
Chairman.
reason that we oppose it.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I've just suddenly thought of something. I'm going to declare an interest, and if you'd like, I'm going to turn my video off and I won't carry on, because this is all part of a farming community and the NFU, of which I am a part. So I think it's best if I step out. All right, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Councillor
And
Newton.
then just tell me when to come back in.
Indeed. Would you
Okay.
note that, please, Nick?
Chairman, yeah, noted.
Yeah, thank you. So, sorry, Councillor Ruffles, that was quite helpful. I mean, obviously, he's quite a busy. It's got a mixture of industrial use and agricultural use. I guess the farmhouse is inhabited as a domestic dwelling.
Yes, yes, it is. Well, Councillor Pinkham will tell us in his ward, but it was my forebears' farm at one point. They were yeoman farmers owning the whole patch, and the house is from their time, the late 1700s, and that is still lived in. And there's another property also lived in on that campus, residential at the moment. But converting the barn would be really a major step in a direction we don't want to go, I think, because all the rest of the barns can be converted, and we have a housing development there, which isn't our sense of what we actually see Foxholes Farm
No.
as.
Yeah. And there's sort of rolling situation, because if you have barns and you convert them into houses, providing you've still got an agricultural use for there, then of course you can then build another barn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so on.
And
It's a rolling process. Takes time, but it's a rolling process of urbanization
Yeah.
of the green belt. And I'm not sure how we get that across in a way in which.
Well, I think we could say, yeah, I think that the committee is concerned that the conversion of existing agricultural buildings into domestic dwellings, is contributing to the creeping development of this rural area, and sets a precedent, for further development or further conversion of
Unwelcome precedent.
Can we say within the green belt, Councillor Ruffles? Does that?
Yeah, I think we've kind of got to, as long as we don't entirely don't simply say. I think we can say as much as we like, as long as it's not only residential in the green belt, as it were. As long as we talk about the appropriate of residential here, and then talk about green belt and openness. If
could we also perhaps say something about, this is a busy and active farm with other commercial businesses on site.
Yeah.
I don't know how does that help our cause, or and conversion into residential dwellings.
It could imply a future source of conflict between the two uses.
Yeah.
I mean, a family living there with farming equipment rushing up and down, I don't know. It's not a good combination, is it?
No, but then farmhouses have lived, people have lived in their farmhouses, within farming settings for centuries, I suppose. But
yeah, I mean, if this was if they were saying, oh well, we need accommodation for, say, farm workers, or such like that, there's no argument being made in terms of supporting the business for this.
No,
and it's just simply a proposal to produce a house, which presumably then you can sell. Although I wouldn't particularly, it seems amazing that anyone's talking about converting that particular building, because I just don't see how you'd convert it into anything that would look like a normal house. But we're not told anything about the nature of the conversion. We're not told about. That's another point for us to make. I think that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think, Nick, we could also say there's insufficient information regarding ventilation, heating, light, window openings, within the elevations of the barn.
Would we weaken our case, Chairman, if we talked about were it a timber framed barn, for example, our view might be different. It probably would weaken our case, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, probably.
They're
right.
timber framed barn next.
I think the creeping urbanization of the farm.
Yeah, I think that's also
as a residential development is the issue, really.
Indeed. Yeah. So it is an objection. Perhaps you can cobble something together from all of that, Nick, and then I'll review it in draft form and perhaps send around to everyone the final wording just for comment before we issue that.
No problem, Chairman. Will do.
Thank you, Nick. So we move on to 94 North Road, which is a loss of garage. Surprise, surprise.
Sally back.
Oh, yes. Councillor Newton, thank you for coming back. Sorry, you're listening carefully there.
All right, Mr. Chairman, you just forgot all about me.
Not at all.
No worries.
So this backs, I think this backs onto the railway line, doesn't it? Is this the one?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Did anyone have any comments?
I would say just loss of garage, but there is enough place to park on the road. Sorry, on the drive.
On the drive.
So I wouldn't say it was an objection as such, really, compared to other things.
It's actually quite a nice bit of work, isn't it? I mean, the windows have been, done in such a way as to reflect the existing building. I
think so.
Yeah.
I think we'd just say the committee regret the loss of the garage, but note that there is alternative on-street parking, off-street parking.
Off-street parking.
Now we come to Pimlico House, which we've seen before.
Yeah.
And Pimlico House, we objected to the conversion into 10 one-beds. It was planning application 3/20/1048. It was refused on the grounds that Highways said there was insufficient information regarding parking. So they seem to have commissioned a huge parking a consultation document, which is included in this latest application. And it transpires, for those who maybe haven't read it in full, it transpires that when this building was built, there was concern about the lack of local parking. And so spaces numbers 3 to 7 of Pimlico House were given over to residents to be used after 6 p.m. Monday to Friday and all weekend, so that it would allow, particularly in Pimlico Court, allow residents of Pimlico Court to park their vehicles overnight and at weekends in the existing parking spaces of Pimlico House. Well, those conditions haven't changed just because you want change of use from an office to residential. The issue is that those spaces are no longer available for residents to use at evenings and weekends. Now, since the application was 17 years ago and the consent was 17 years ago, I wonder whether current residents are aware that they're able to use those spaces. But that seems to be the issue. And they conducted a huge study where they looked at people's parking habits during the lockdown, I hasten to say, because it's been over the last few months, and concluded that there was not demand for those spaces, and therefore it wasn't a problem. That's what the parking report, consultancy report states. My view is there's still only 7 spaces, or I can't remember, there were insufficient spaces for the number of flats. And that they went to great pains to say, well, there's one cycle parking space per flat, and therefore, you know, it's good enough. So I don't think they've done anything to address the concerns that we had the last time we reviewed this. I don't know whether anyone's anything else to add.
I think you've covered it all.
So Nick, if perhaps we could repeat the comments we made. As I say, it was 3/20/1048. We had a number of objections, one of which was the insufficient parking.
That will
Thank you, Nick.
do. Okay.
We move on to 41 to 43 St Andrew Street, which again we considered, and that was application 3/20/1653, and we welcomed the repurposing of this. However, there were some comments regarding, if you remember, this is the one that runs behind the old antique shop next to St Andrew's Church, and the proposal was to have these 3 dormers, and the latest amended proposal I thought was to have 1. I read, but I can still see. Let me just. I can still see how many dormers are there now. Oh, they're roof lights now, are they? What are they now saying?
Well, there's the enlargement of 4 dormers plus the roof lights.
So they were
Yes.
going to remodel the existing ones rather than
Yes.
into.
They have dormers now, but just enlarged. I don't think we objected to that, did we?
No,
No.
Well, I was quite happy with it. I thought we after the
indeed.
discussion.
I think we were all reasonably happy with it. Any observations from anyone else? I'm struggling with my views. Hang on a minute.
I think the sooner the better. We don't want the building to
Yes.
deteriorate further,
I agree.
and they're eliminating a lot of the more modern.
Yeah, I think we'd like to see. I think, you know, I think if we can just repeat again the comments that were made on the last application. I think there are also some comments about the internal divisions, but I don't think that's really an issue for us, is it? How many internal partitions they had, and
It's too technical, isn't it? It's a conservation officers.
exactly. So I think that was the other reason for the new application. But if we could just repeat what we previously said, Nick.
Yes, Chairman, will do. Thank you.
Okay. And then we can move on to 306 to 310 Ware Road. So this is what I think of as the old Volvo garage, but where they're building 45 dwellings. Now they've asked for a variation. Condition 12 asked for a travel plan to be prepared, and they've countered it, saying that a travel plan is only required on developments of 50 to 80 properties, and because they're only building 45, they don't need to put a travel plan in. I mean, it's a bit mealy-mouthed, but that's what they're saying. My personal view is that this is a very busy road. The housing density is very high in this area because of all the other developments that have taken place, and I actually feel that a travel plan should be prepared.
Can we not insist?
Well, this is what that's what they're applying for, the variation of condition 12, and the condition 12 was to prepare a travel plan, and they're saying it's not necessary.
They seem to be suggesting that the condition is unlawful because of the fact that it's not consistent with the county council's policies. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but I mean, that seems to be, they're basically saying, asking it to be struck out because shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Well, I think as a committee, well, certainly my view, and I'll put it to the committee, forgive me for sort of railroading a bit, but my feeling is that there's an exceptional reason for the need in this particular area, because it's a very busy road. There's a high density of existing housing in the area. and it's a busy arterial route that's used by public transport and HGVs. And so the introduction of another 45 dwellings, entering and egressing onto that road, does have concerns for the residents and also for, as an arterial route.
I don't disagree with that at all. All I'm just questioning is whether it's lawful or not to
We can let
that
the
condition.
council make a ruling on that with their lawyers and whatever. But
yeah.
As a committee, are we happy with that approach?
I think,
Yeah.
Chairman,
Yes.
I am, if I could be reminded exactly what a travel plan is.
Ooh.
I think it's a piece of it's whatever it is. So
No. I think it actually explains the number of journeys they would expect from in and out of this area, the impact that will have on the traffic density. I think they also have to measure the existing traffic density and then sort of, correlate, well, the impact would be this or that. They also have to, it's mainly at rush hour time. And if you've gone along there at 8:30 in the morning, which I have, it's a very busy road and the buses struggle with all the parked cars that are already parked along there. The buses struggle to get up and down there. And if the two meet coming in opposite directions,
it should cover journey to work, public transport access, bicycles, pedestrian access, all sorts of things. But the question is, the only thing I would say is, if we're allowed to ask for it, we should have it.
I think we can put our comment.
Yes.
We believe there are exceptional reasons for requesting a travel plan that maybe are outside the usual policies.
I think my biggest concern is the parking plan here.
There's insufficient parking. That goes without saying, doesn't it? And that will put further pressure on. But I think they put a parking plan in.
Yeah.
Well, we know, Councillor Hunt, you're right.
Guarantee there's going to be a load of overspilled parking.
Of course. In addition,
maybe worse.
Already. Yeah. Okay, I think we have to move on. Did you capture the comments, Nick?
It's worth also saying that they don't want to make provision for electric vehicles because a lot of the parking is a considerable distance from the properties.
Unfortunately, Councillor Pinkham, they've already got planning permission to build. It's just application to vary that one condition. So I don't think really we can.
Well, I just wonder whether would it be appropriate for a travel plan to have that in it. You see.
I think we're probably blurring the purpose of the travel plan. I think we need to move on to 46 Temple Fields, which is a fairly sizable two-story extension. Almost, to my mind, looks like it almost doubles the size of the house. But I don't know whether it's quite that much, but it's pretty sizable. So this is right on the edge of Bengio, for those who know where Temple Fields is, in sort of just on as you go out towards Wadesmill. But any observations for anyone? So you can see the existing, and then you can see the.
And you notice
Section AA, I think, says it all for me in terms of the scale of it.
Yeah, but there is the staggering of the properties makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is true that there is another location plan, I think. If we could just have a quick look. No, is that the location? Yeah, that shows the staggering of the properties. It is true. So perhaps.
Yeah, you couldn't really say it was overdevelopment. It's quite a large plot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know about the impact on the two neighbouring houses. I would have thought it's quite limited.
Well, because of the staggering, I think actually you're right.
And the the sun, obviously, shading shouldn't be a serious problem for the one to the north.
No. Because there's already a shadow from 48.
Yeah.
So is that a no objection?
Yep.
Are you happy with no objection?
Yep.
All right. We'll move on to 60 Birdie Way.
Interesting one.
Another interesting extension. This backs onto the A10. Again, if we can see the location plan.
So you're a backer on, are you? I noticed the debate that the agent had outlined, where the residents saw the back of the house in a different way to their agent.
I believe they want to basically put the front door at the rear of the property. Basically looking to turn it round.
Turn it round.
I mean, I hear what they say about the space at the back, being so close to the A10 and so on. It's noisy. It's in shadow. It's not really doesn't provide much amenity as a garden. They're sort of saying. Does anyone have any strong feelings about it?
I'm fascinated by it, to be honest, Chairman. I don't quite know what I think. It certainly would be an innovation, breaking that building line on the footpath.
Yeah.
But it's also, although Councillor Hunt is here from the Kingsmead ward, but it's a popular footpath, well-used footpath, and not unattractive. And this will be quite a change visually. But I'm not really as much thinking of what harm it does to the neighbours as to what it does to the footpath view, street view.
I mean, the building steps out anyway, doesn't it? It's number 60 from its neighbour.
Yeah.
Councillor Hunt, do you have any observations? You're on mute, but I think you said not really.
Take that as a given.
Sorry, Councillor Hunt, you're still on mute. He's frozen as well.
Yeah, it's not an area of great architecture, is it?
No.
Difficult to form a view really, and they are living right next to the A10.
We leave it as no comment, or do you want to comment about the footpath of street
One
scene?
bit I would like to personally comment on, Chairman, is materials. The very first thing, brick, and it does say to match existing, or words to that effect. I think that's crucially important that it should, if it's allowed.
Right.
Because there is that common brick use in the whole of the estate, really. And
there is. So, Nick, I think, the council would wish to be reassured that the building materials do match the existing properties as these materials are used throughout the.
Yep.
Could we just slip in exact mix in this particular location?
Exact match. Yes, good point.
They come up with, they'll weather down and it'll look the same in 25 years. But
but it'll look like a carbuncle for the next 25 years. Yeah. So an exact match, with all the materials used on this development. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's paper B, and we move on to paper C. 20 Warren Park Road, I believe it is. So another interesting one. They had an application in 2019 which was refused for a different type of development to give them more parking. So they've now come up with, if we can't build outwards, we're going to build upward. So they want to put basically a first floor on their garage. This is 20 Warren Park Road, and have a car lift that lifts car into the rafters, and then they park another one underneath. Interesting thought. But perhaps we could have a quick look at the drawing, Nick. 20 Warren Park Road. This is
One part.
on paper C.
1 second, I'm just trying to get it. Yeah, that one's taking a few minutes to come up actually. So
That's all right. In the meantime, the second application on paper C is for a greenhouse. I didn't know that you needed planning permission for a greenhouse, do you?
Not in the conservation area.
Not to that size, surely.
I know. Yeah, they applied for a summer house some years ago, and I don't know whether they felt that they needed to do the same for. Is this our garage or our greenhouse?
That's the greenhouse.
Yeah, we moved on to
That's-
14 the
that's the
drive.
greenhouse.
Sorry. That's okay. Let's
wait
make
for that one to
got this
come
one
up.
while we're here. So he's got he had 6 vegetable plots, and he wants to turn one of his vegetable plots into a greenhouse. I don't have an issue personally. I'm not
No,
surprised.
I can't see that this needs planning permission.
No.
I really can't.
Let's just say no objection to 14
Yeah.
drive. Perhaps we need to go back now to 21 Park Road, if we can, Nick.
Wait 1 second. Okay.
So as you can see from the 1 to 20 section in the bottom right there, he's basically lifting up the roof using the existing rafters and everything. And then there's going to be a lift for now the south elevation is used. Well, here we go. That's probably why he wants to put his Aston Martin in it. If we just could go back to the earlier image we had.
Image it. Okay, 1 second.
I'm not going to get that.
Well, in a
car.
way, that's not a bad image either. All I was going to say was that the is it Owen? I can't remember the name of Owen Close. Is it the double garage? Next
Owen's View. Yeah.
Owen's View, yeah. Basically, by raising his roof on his garage, it's not going any higher than the double garage from Owen View. So, do we really have an issue?
Well, except that car's not going to go in that garage, is it?
I don't
It
know.
doesn't actually fit through the front door.
I don't know, but that's if you just slide down again, Nick, and maybe just enlarge that one there, you'll see that he wants to put a lift in, garage lift by specialist. You know,
Yeah, one would hope it wouldn't be knocked up by an amateur.
what do you think he wants? Do you think he wants to put a gym upstairs? And he's
I think this is a load of rubbish.
Yes.
I don't believe a word of it.
Strongman tools do a good car lift.
so what? I mean, you know, we can only judge it based on the evidence put before us, Councillor Bingham. You must know that.
Yeah, I do.
How do we feel about the evidence put before us?
It's quite a common thing to do.
Quite a common thing to do.
Yeah, there's you know, the kind of lifts you get in MOT stations and stuff like that. That's not really kind of suitable, but there's a company called Strongman Tools, and they do some really nice little car lifts for doing exactly that.
So, you know, what you've got to ask yourself is that he's going to have a car in the bottom and a car in the top.
Yep.
So every time he moves, he wants the car at the top, he's got to move the car at the bottom, which is precisely the problem he's got currently with the drive that he's got at the moment.
Yeah, but they're indoors.
Yeah, they're indoors, that's true.
Yeah.
He doesn't choose to put the
Nice
one
occasional.
expensive car indoors at the moment because he can't get it through the front door and open the doors of the car.
Well, he doesn't need to put a cover on it or whatever in the winter. I don't know. based on this application, does anyone have any objections?
Could I just ask a question?
Of
I'm
course.
quite intrigued about the mechanism, the noise, the shuffling and shunting, and what it might do for any buildings in the proximity of this garage. Because these things, you know, driving in, driving out, shuffling up, shuffling down, there must be an element, I would have thought, of disturbance, wouldn't there be? I've never come across it before, so I don't know.
I think these garage lifts are fairly quiet, to be honest,
Are they?
and it's enclosed. People are driving on and off their drives already with their vehicles, so I'm not. I understand your concern, but
I'm
I'm
just
not sure it will make
asking.
a
But
significant difference.
I don't have a view because I don't have a view.
Oh, yes.
So it is quite a common thing to do. My friend, a friend of mine, who he bought a old Triumph Stag, and the chap did exactly that. He put his old vintage Triumph Stag in, basically in the roof of the garage.
Fair enough.
On something.
I think it's a no objection then. After
Yeah, I mean, we
marveling
can
at the curiosity of it all.
can't object given our attitude to garage spaces.
Well, exactly. Now we move on to 225 Ware Road. I'm confused because permission was granted on the 23rd of November for this. So I'm not quite sure why it appears on our list, Nick. Again.
It came through as an application before then.
Hello.
225 Ware
So
Road.
obviously in between the
We objected to this on the 5th of October at our meeting on the 5th of October, but it's gone ahead anyway. It was granted on the 23rd with conditions. So I obviously it's not worth us considering it.
Yeah, we didn't like it because it was too high, did we? That's the- yeah.
So we could move on to 51 Lodge Close.
I live in Lodge Close, but I don't think this is near enough to me to worry.
No.
Declaring an interest.
It's the middle of a row of 5 detached properties. There's observation I could make, although they only show 3 of the 5, but does anyone have any? So there's a symmetry about them all at the moment, but
Yes.
actually, to be fair, the one on the end, the left of this on the south elevation, the one right at the end that we can't see, number 5, if you like, there's another 2 either side, has already got a pitched roof on the front of the house. So you might argue that this symmetry has been broken already.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few of the houses have got things which break the symmetry, as it were. So, it's just another one, really. In fact, I mean, let's face it, it looks a lot better with the pitch
It does.
roof than it does with the flat roof.
Yeah. And they've already paved over the whole front garden, so they've got off-street parking. So whether we regret the loss of garage, there is off-street parking.
Just about off-street parking for 2 cars, almost touching the pavement. But if everybody in that cul-de-sac does the same thing, there will be a shortage of parking there. Because the road is quite narrow, the Lodge Close Road. But I mean, I don't feel strongly about it. I just feel that if other people did it, it would be because at the moment already cars are parked up on the pavement.
Yeah. I think we should regret the loss of the garage. Committee regret the loss of another garage in a narrow cul-de-sac. Then we move on to 103 Duncan Road. And this is a pair. There's a pair of rather nice period semi-detached. And my initial thought,
area.
don't know about this, and then you realise that the house next door's done it already.
Yeah.
The other side semi have already extended out. So really, it will. If anything, it'll sort of. It'll make it look a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Duncan Road, I suppose, is this, and then it comes back to the parking again. As you make these houses bigger, then of course they take larger families and who have more cars. And there's not particularly good provision for parking in Duncan Road. So, you know, that's the only thing to say about it. You're making quite a few of the houses in Duncan Road larger than they previously were.
Yeah.
And it's gradually making the road more and more congested.
Yeah,
It's now a road that it's actually very often very difficult to get down. You certainly would have days where a fire engine wouldn't be able to get.
That image on the right, sorry, Nick. Oh, we just lost it.
Certainly for emergency vehicles, absolutely. And they're already parking on the drive around the corner. It's too tight, really. I mean, the houses, as you say, have gone too big, really.
True. The right-hand image shows how the adjoining semi is already built out.
Yeah, I don't see how, to be honest, I don't see how we can object to this particular development, but I think there is an issue here. I'm not sure whether it should be flagged up with the district council or not.
Yeah. Yeah, well, perhaps we could say whilst the committee have no issue with the extension as proposed, there is an issue regarding the pressure on parking along Duncan Road as houses become larger and more extended families are living in these residences. Then we move on to land to the rear of 22 and 24 Cardy Close. And I thought, hang on a minute, haven't we done this one already? But that was because this was there's another one along the road from this.
Yes, on the bend. Yes, further along on the bend.
If we're able to see the, I think there's a location plan that really sums it up. There we are. So obviously the location plan in the bottom right corner there shows it's sort of along from Elizabeth. What's it called? Is it Elizabeth Close?
Close, yeah.
That's right. Yes.
Just along from Elizabeth Close, really. So it's, I guess, within the 30-mile-an-hour limit rather than. I don't quite know where it changes to 40. But they're very small gardens that everyone's going to end up with.
A nice profit.
Oh, indeed. We objected to the other application on the grounds that they were proposing semis and all detached dwellings along here. And now there's 2 detached dwellings here. So.
I mean, I like gardens, but I can't see how to object, bearing in mind other things that have happened along the road. And the development opposite, Thieves Lane, a massive development opposite.
Yeah.
With small gardens, you know.
I mean, we're going to see some more of this, aren't we?
Yes.
Just looking at the plans, it's inevitable.
Well, why do we think Cardy Close was made a cul-de-sac?
Rather than, well, I suppose because it would otherwise be a nice little cut through, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't know whether there's a traffic issue, that's all. But then it's 2 dwellings, isn't it? And it's within the 30 limit. Do we see that?
I guess that limit will change, won't it, in time? In any case,
I think it'll all come
because
down.
of the houses to the east of this.
Yes, I'm waiting for an accident on Thieves Lane where it's still 40. It's far too fast, but there you go.
Well, Bentley Road is 20 miles an hour, and that's just to the west of to the left of what we're looking at here.
Yeah. Yes.
Be that as it may, is that effectively a no objection by the sounds of it? I mean, despite the fact it's not our favourite.
If this was a single development, we are starting to run up against issues of density here. I mean, I wonder whether planners would have been very happy with, you know, if all of these houses now turn into. At what point do you start to say, well, this is actually now too dense?
Well, look at the whole of Carday Close. There are
Yes.
all these back gardens here.
Yeah, and
Be
obviously you
converted.
can't. I mean, if I was in number 20, I might be thinking to myself, it's a shame because
I
we've
missed
all
out.
got together. We could have all made a nice little profit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that their grounds really. Councillor Lynch, sorry.
I said there might be some who are grateful for not having a large garden and don't have to put the work into it. Don't
I
believe
think it is worth commenting. You know that the committee concerned about the loss of amenity with the reduction in the size of gardens.
Yes, great. And that perhaps having two properties there with small gardens increases the density too much. But that's implying that we're okay with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess if you live in number 20, you think you live in this spacious green area, and it's now become a good deal less spacious and green.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, at what point do you start to call a halt to this? If you're in number 9, you know, I wonder whether you're going to get the same thing happening all the way along the road.
Yeah, perhaps we could add then that you know, furthermore, we're concerned that this would set a precedent for all the back gardens
future developments.
along that adjoin the Welling Road. I don't suppose it'll have much impact, but
It's
Now
worth
with
saying.
placards,
yeah, I think it will. I think it's inevitable, but anyway, as we're supposed to consider each one on its merit, aren't we? Okay, I think we'd better move on. I know I'm looking at the time, and I know we've got another meeting at 7:30. No, don't apologise. I think we do need to give them time. 46 to 48 St Andrew Street was that modern infill on St Andrew Street that we've already considered, and we were happy about the repurposing of it. So the upstairs is going to be converted into flats. This, I don't know whether you're aware, has been purchased by Austin's, the undertakers.
Yeah, so
And
the
they're
neighbours
proposing-
going to be pretty quiet then, aren't they, really?
Yeah, well, they're proposing this single-story rear extension as a arrangement room. I'm not quite sure what that means, but
I don't think I want to know.
indeed. But I think there's sufficient space. The sort of courtyard, isn't there? That
I'd like to look my best, so let's let them have their own.
It's a shame. It's a terrible shame that someone doesn't actually, you know, it's part of any development. They're trying to make that building look a bit more like, the other buildings in the road. It was a tremendous opportunity lost just to stick a modern.
I know. And when you look up at the sloping roof sort of windows, you know, above, there really is no way of turning that into a period building. You know,
it's ugly as sin, isn't it?
Indeed, from the front. No, I have no objection. Anyone else?
No.
No.
So it's a no objection to that one. 13 Port Hill. Funnily enough, this used to be used by Austin's.
Yes.
But it's had various uses. It's a very long, narrow piece of land. And they want to put three properties in there. But do you know what? I mean, that's the nature of some of the dwellings along there, is cheek by jowl, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes. But the where the cars are, the wall on the left-hand side is somebody's back room, those cottages, and the one on the right, the house on the right, also butts onto the house on Port Vale. It's too tight, really.
Yeah.
They are. I think there's one small window in the. Ooh. There's one small window in the long wall to the left. I don't know which one. What am I talking about? In the bottom right-hand image.
Yes.
One small window, and apart from that, it's just a brick wall. So
Yes.
from a noise point of view, I don't know that it'll have much impact.
it feels like overdevelopment to me.
Yes.
Don't like this.
It's in terms of
I mean,
squeezing.
that wall on the
Trees.
left of the picture, bottom picture, is other people's houses back onto it, and you have cars driving up and down there, right? You know.
But equally, if you went along towards Port Vale, there's a row of period cottages. I don't know what age they are. Councillor Ruffles will put me right, but I mean they've been there for a long time, and they are literally cheek by jowl. You know, it's not unusual to have these sort of long, narrow developments.
Yeah, you've got Russell Court Mews, which is just up a little passage, and there are late Victorian cottages there. I don't have I can see what the issues are, and I wouldn't sort of smash them out of debate, but I'm not really exercised myself too much about the tightness, because it's characteristic of the area, and as long as amenities are reasonable.
Fair enough.
My concern would be that this detached house at the end of the dwelling, at the end of the, so on the left of the picture as we're looking at this layout here, the whole area surrounding it is open land, and so by plonking a building in you know, there, it does. I don't know if there's any sort of loss of amenity and
Good point,
privacy,
actually.
and potentially privacy. You know, because they're all back gardens basically.
Yeah.
So there's all cottages around, and all their back gardens face into that detached property. That's my only.
I just think it's one step too far. I've just had it with all this infill and squashing people up, and you know, we're going to end up living in our houses and working in our houses at this rate, and then we're going to put ourselves in little houses with little cul-de-sacs with little walls, so that when you look out your window you don't see a view. And the question is, when do you stop? When do you stop? Maybe
well, Victorian started it, Councillor Newton.
Sorry?
We can put a stop to it.
I just feel today that 3 houses is just too much.
I agree with that
I
comment.
agree with you, Sally. So,
Okay, well, so Nick,
Yeah.
the committee are concerned that this is. Excuse me, my son's just set off the fire alarm.
Excellent.
Does that mean that you have to evacuate, Chair?
Is that controversial? Mr. Chairman, come back. Oh gosh.
Oh, to have teenagers. It's great. I remember those days vaguely.
I apologise for that.
That's fine.
Well, as I was saying, we'll all be working from home.
Indeed.
Our houses on our computers.
So the
Okay.
committee are concerned that this represents overdevelopment of this narrow site.
I think so.
I mean, where would a visitor park?
You know, that there isn't sufficient provision for visitor parking,
No,
I mean, you wouldn't keep the 2 meters distant, would you? Be quite difficult.
and also that the detached property at the end of the site will overlook all the surrounding gardens, and would be a loss of amenity and privacy for those existing residents. So I think overall it's an objection now rather than just a comment.
Yeah.
It's just one house too many.
It's one house too many, yes.
That's it's too greedy.
Because they're big houses as well, and therefore they may have 2 cars as a minimum, you know.
it just does not fit. No. No.
Apologise for leaving the meeting briefly. Close my front door now. The smokers left the hall. Okay, so we move on then to 13 Bluebell Close, which is an interesting one because this is a property that currently has a double garage, or two single garages, and they want to convert one of them into another room. but I note that they do have significant off-street parking. So personally, whilst regretting the loss of a garage, I don't object to this.
Agreed. Can't see how to object.
And then, Nick, we're going to move on to, bearing in mind the time, 45 Lodge Close.
Back in my road again.
This isn't just as advertised. It's not just removal of conservatory and ground floor rear extension, because they're replacing it with something else. But having said that, having looked at the plans, I don't have any issue with what they're proposing.
Seems fine.
Is the TPO element that we're told about significant? Is there a
Right.
threat?
Nick, could we perhaps see the block plan? I think that's probably where we'd see the tree. 45 Lodge Close.
Chairman, if I may, sometimes it's just note there's one in the vicinity rather than actually there will be any sort of impact on the actual tree.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a lot of trees in that area have got tree preservation orders because they date from the garden of the original lodge building. I still think it'd be useful to have a little look at it.
We're able to, Nick. I think this might be our last piece of business, bearing in mind that there's another meeting in 10 minutes, and I know that there are there's a sizable item regarding road naming, but I'm wondering whether perhaps whether there is time for us. Nick, you're on mute. Here we go. It's not significantly larger than
no obvious trees.
That's right.
There are some nice trees dotted around, but
yeah, I think that the tree, the big tree, is in the next house down, number 47. There's a huge tree there, but I don't think it's in that garden.
I don't have an issue with this.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. So it's no objection then, Nick. Right, I've got to do that. Go back to the agenda then. And any comments regarding paper D? Decisions from the County Council and District Council? Do we have any licensing applications? Item 9, Nick.
Chairman, no licensing applications.
No. I'm going to skip item 10, which is a street naming, on the grounds I don't think we can do it justice, bearing in mind that there's a meeting about to start.
Can't be urgent either. They've just started developing the site. So,
Nick, is it possible for us to delay that to the next meeting?
Chairman, yes. For sure, I'll let them. I'll let street naming know. So no problem.
Thank you for producing the sort of summary list.
Chairman, I wonder whether we really need to defer it. Can we not just put all of those names to them, everything, rather than, I could justify his list, I could justify mine, and for various reasons. As a committee,
we could do that.
Anything you want to strike out?
I mean, does anyone have any objections to any of the proposals put forward? I mean,
no
objections.
Only one. I burst into tears when I see badgers close or dawn rise, because I know that I'll never see a deer rise or a badger in a close or a squirrel in the area. So I know it's lovely to have, sorry, Tony, I know this is your thing about having nature naming roads, but if you do, like at Foxholes, when you go around and you just know that these animals aren't there, it's more of a reminder of what we've done. And I just detest this intense development that we're doing. So I would just like to steer away from that. That's just my bit. Just my
We need a reminder because we are losing so much wildlife.
Yeah, break into tears every time we drive by. Yeah.
But Chairman, taking up Tony Tariga's point generally, would it not be sensible for us to ask the developer also to consult the Wildlife Trust, who could be specific about particular animals or plants in Penzhanger that might fit? If we just let them do the work, as it were, if they're minded to do it.
So you mean name the roads for the plants that are specific to the
Well,
area?
I was thinking of the osprey, for example.
The great oak, or was it the royal oak or the great oak, whatever it is that we've got in Penzhanger Wood?
We can't have limes. We can't have limes, Nick, because we've got the limes already. It's on your suggested list, Nick.
Yeah, we've got Oak Tree Close already, haven't we? I think.
Yeah.
And we've got Oak Grove. Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
I just loved all the churchyard research. I thought that was some of that was very good. And the idea of having it, the Truman's Brewery commemorated in one of our.
I know you like that as well. Yeah, it's
it.
amazing what you can find on Wikipedia.
Excellent.
Whatever.
But anyway, Nick, yes. So thank you, Councillor Ruffles. Let's put forward all those names and make that proposal that the Wildlife Trust might wish to research.
People will do.
Whether there's anything appropriate to the local area.
No
Item 11, correspondence. We got any correspondence or appeals to consider, Nick?
Yeah, Chairman, we have one for 279 Ware Road. That's I'm going to appeal. There's also a planning appeal for rear of 41 Fanshawe Street. That's the refusal for the two new dwellings to the rear of 41.
Right.
And there's just an update on the appeal decision for Lambrook, St Mary's Lane. To the decision of the planning inspector is the appeal is dismissed. Okay.
Good.
If you want some further, I can circulate further details of that if the committee wishes. And the whole long
committee wish to see that.
That one specifically.
Okay, thank you, Nick. And then item 12, any other business? So I notice we've got 7 minutes now to the next meeting. No. So thank you very much indeed for your input, and we'll see some of you in a few minutes' time. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.